In this short video, I'll guide you through transforming a batch file of patient records into a FHIR patient resource. You'll see how to use the Record Mapper utility, how to create a transformation DTL for XML data, and how to map a proprietary delimited message into an HS SDA3 container. You'll also see a demonstration of setting up your FHIR server endpoint and connecting your production items end to end. To begin with, we'll configure the FHIR server. Navigate to Help, then to FHIR Server Configuration, and from here we'll add a new endpoint. Select FHIR Core 4.0.1. Next, we'll change the endpoint as we'll need this later. Under Additional Packages, we'll choose Core 3.1.0, and the remaining configuration will retain the default values. While this builds in the background, we can continue with the remaining components we need. Next, we'll build the record mapper. Navigate to Build CSV Record Wizard. When selecting a file, make sure to select All Files here, otherwise you won't be able to see the correct file. I've already created an inbound folder, and in that folder I've placed the sample message. Now that the wizard can see our sample message, we can continue to selecting that file. For the record map name, we'll use UDS patient export. The separator, we'll use the pipe symbol, and we'll check the header row box. We'll go ahead and save it, and we'll be provided this record mapping. Save this mapping under the HS local FHIR messages package. We'll name it UDS patient export and click OK. Click Generate, as this will create two additional necessary files. This will now be available for use as we continue. Now we'll build the data transformation using the mapping table we just worked on. We will use the data to map the inbound message to the SDA patient section. Navigate to the Data Transformation Wizard. We'll name this UDS patient export to SDA. Select All Messages, and for the source class, choose Messages class, then HS local FHIR messages UDS patient record. For the target type, we'll choose XML and we'll choose HS SDA3 container. There are a variety of ways to map data transformations. In this example, you can drag and drop from source to target. In this example, you can double-click the source and double-click the target, and the tool will automatically connect them. In this example, you can use functions in order to calculate values that are needed. We can use the convert date time function. The source will be the birth date as the value, and the in format is year, month, day. I will continue with the mappings and return. Now that we have a complete patient mapping, we can save and compile, which will make this data mapping available to us in the production. Now that we have all of the components we need, we can build out our production. Begin by creating a new business service. For Service class, select NSLib Recorder Map Service File Service. For service name, we'll use UDS Patient Export File Service. I'll be grouping these under the display category to make it easier to see. Select Enable now. We'll continue by creating two new business processes. For the first business process class, select the local FHIR record mapper to SDA process. We'll call this business process FHIR Recorder Mapper to SDA, and we'll enable it. We'll create the other business process now. For this process, we'll use the HS FHIR DTL HC SDA3 FHIR process. We'll create a similar name as the class and enable it now. Next, we'll build up the operations. For the first operation class, select HS FHIR Server Interop Operation. We will call this the UDS FHIR Server operation and then enable it. These are the four main components we'll need, but we'll connect the HS util trace operations so that they can help us visualize the data being passed around. The last thing we need to do before we are finished is to connect our production components to one another. Starting on the left, we will select the file service. For the file path, be sure to back out of the MGR directory. Begin with iris data. Select the inbound file that we created earlier, as this will ingest the sample file. For the record map, choose the HS local FHIR messages UDS patient export map that we created. For the target config, we'll be pointing at the FHIR record mapper to SDA. Click Apply. Next, we'll go to the record mapper to SDA business process. For patient ID, select ID. The DTL transformation class will be the DTL we created earlier. Next, we'll select HS FHIR DTL util HD SDA3 FHIR process 2 as the target and make sure to click Apply. For the HS FHIR DTL process, we'll target the UDS FHIR server operation. Transmission mode, we will leave as transaction. And for the FHIR metadata set, we'll choose the R4 core specification. For the FHIR endpoint, choose the one that we created at the beginning of this video. Log the trace events and select Full. This will help us visualize the data. Select Apply. Now that we have our production components connected, we can run our data through our production. I'm going to copy my sample data into the inbound folder. Start the production, and we can see the production ran without errors. We'll go to the message viewer, and we will see that they all completed. We can see here in the visual trace how our messages moved from each component to the next. Here is where the trace operation captured the data passed and how it transformed along the way. Be sure to select the Contents tab when you want to see this information.